Well, you've heard me say this before, folks. We're going to keep this short. We're going to keep this sweet. We're going to try to do that. Final game of the season for the Iowa Hawkeye baseball team as they fall in Terre Haute to the Indiana State Sycamores. And once again, a close game. And I give credit to Iowa's hitters for keeping it close because a lot of problems on the mound today. I thought some questionable officiating, but you can't give up 11 runs in most settings and expect to find a way to win. And we questioned pitching heading into the game, and we didn't know what Rick Keller and company would have in store as far as who they would throw out there. And we saw a wide array of, I don't know if I'd call it even a strategy. I'm trying to figure out what the strategy was, and I'm not coming on here to rip Rick Keller. I'm certainly no baseball expert. And by the way, now that I've said that to lead off the show, I've been able to say that during every baseball segment here on the channel, so I'm proud to be able to say that again. I am no baseball expert, but Rick Keller and the pitching team, I'm trying to figure out what the strategy was today. So somebody explain that to me. I just don't get it. But obviously they're not as deep in the bullpen as they'd like to be, and maybe not quite as good in the bullpen as I thought they were. I think that's putting it lightly. I thought they delayed in getting Luke Llewellyn out there. I trust him. He has shown up more than probably anybody else in that bullpen during postseason play. Christopherson played pretty well. Was it earlier today? All these games are running together now. But for the most part, I think Luke Llewellyn, he saved that game on Friday against North Carolina. Would have liked to have seen him out earlier, but again, I'm not a strategist with these things, and Iowa's season ends on a Sunday evening in Terre Haute. Let's go to our first caller. Tony's on the line. Tony, your thoughts?
Is my microphone too loud?
Well, you're also talking at a decent level, so that's good.
I pretty much talk at the same level most times, so I don't know. I was playing around with the settings earlier, so that's why I wanted to ask you and joke with you about, like, I'm not yelling or anything like that. So
it's fine.
Okay. In these situations, like I was telling you, like with these tournaments, it's so hard once you get into the third and fourth game. Like, I really think Heller was just trying to get through, and I really think he wanted to save that
elimination game. It's an elimination.
Yeah.
I want to hear this stuff about, we're just trying to get to Monday. Well, yeah, obviously you're trying to get to Monday. Yeah. Now we're not playing. You ain't playing Monday, Tony.
Yeah. No, you're right. I think that's the only reason he didn't want to pitch the Avery, the kid who I think pitched that was Avery was his last name. Like, he's went multiples before. I think he was trying to hopefully use him Monday, but I don't know who else he could have used.
That's why they didn't throw Luke out there.
Yeah, I guess I have no answer for that. But I mean, I really think the score should have been a lot more lopsided than it was. You don't have that many runners on base usually. Like Indiana State usually, as the other team, does not have that many runners on base and not cash in a lot more than they did.
I don't have the box score in front of me, and I told myself heading into this little short post-game thing that I was not going to throw up the box score just because it's the last game of the season. Frankly, I don't care, Tony. But didn't Iowa out-hit Indiana State?
They did, but when you throw in...
No. They out-hit Indiana State.
They did?
They out-hit Indiana State. Who had more errors?
Indiana State did.
Okay.
Now...
Well, I don't want to hear about how it should have been more lopsided.
I guess
10 batters hit.
That's the point right there. That's not added into the hits. You throw in 10 more hits there.
I understand.
Yeah, that's where I'm going with it is.
I don't understand how you I tweeted out during the game, is there really nobody left in the bullpen? Of course there's guys left in the bullpen. And somebody said to me, well, a lot of these guys, I don't know the roster like some of you may. Somebody's like, well, there's, they lost some guys to suspension. Well, they brought guys in, including Luke, late in the game. But at that point, you've given up 11 runs, and now you're desperate for hits in the 8th and 9th innings. No, I just don't quite get timing-wise. And you could see a stark difference with Indiana State, how they treat their pitchers. And maybe it's just because they have more depth or they believe in their depth more, and how Iowa treats its rotation and its bullpen. I mean, it's just – you saw Indiana State, a couple bad pitches or maybe they walk a guy. Okay, we're having a conversation. And what was it? Was it the 4th, 5th inning where it just seemed like, well, for a stretch of 2 or 3 innings, bases loaded with 1 or 0 outs, it seemed like every inning.
Yeah.
And Iowa managed to find a way to stay within reaching distance and maintain some level of damage control. But you can't. You're right. You cannot expect to win games constantly loading up the bases early in an inning. You just can't do it. You're going to get.
That was something that, like, I read in a lot of the previews, was the Iowa pitchers. I mean, I didn't watch them all season. I watched them more towards the end of the season. They just had a lack of control. And that was apparent, that walking and hitting batters, that's going to kill it.
And lack of, Allen's taking a shot at Heller. I've always liked Rick Heller. Again, not being a baseball expert, it's hard for me to really be critical of Rick Heller. But I'm not the only person who feels this way. Did you feel like do you feel like, Alan, that the decision making from Heller and company was a bit befuddling as it relates to the pitching strategy?
Are you asking? You said Alan, right?
And you? Yeah, I'm asking you.
Oh, me? I was not that befuddled. I'm sorry, I was not.
So
I understood what he was doing.
When what's his face was left in the game as he's hitting batter after batter after batter after batter and loading the bases every inning, you have no problem with leaving him in the game.
To me, it's like
him pitching. What did he pitch? 60, 70 pitches?
Yeah, so I think he got through 3 or 4 innings. No, I get it. It's just I don't know if there's any other options. Someone also
long innings, Tony. Long innings.
Oh yeah. Someone did say something, and I don't know because this hasn't been covered that much on the baseball side, that Keaton Anthony was not the only real baseball player affected. He was the only major one. But I heard that there's a couple bullpen arms that were affected by that gambling thing.
That was implied by the response to that tweet of mine earlier. And I don't know the roster to be able to comment on it, but I don't buy that as an excuse for
no.
That failed to make in this game. So,
and I mean, I'm going to say the same thing I said last night. I still think the better team won. Unfortunately, you hate to say that. I mean,
Indiana State's a better team. I agree. Yeah, they're a better team.
It was enjoyable.
They're not great.
No.
But that region may open up if Arkansas can't get. I don't even know what the latest on that.
Yeah, they got delayed or something by a day, and there might be something where they have to play into Tuesday. Yeah, if stuff happens, and there's a lot of weather delays. I noticed. I didn't, I mentioned that first call-in show. I didn't think they'd I thought they'd try to push these things back and stay on schedule, but I guess they're more, apt to delay them because they know that you're not playing again until Friday, right? I think it's on the super regional.
And yet Iowa had to bounce back today after an hour and a half of rest.
Yeah.
Oh, and by the way, let me just sound off on one other thing before I let you go.
That's it.
Michael Seager, great shortstop, made some absolute bonehead plays in this game. Bonehead plays.
Yeah.
As far as base runners concerned.
And you wonder if the lights got too big for these guys. They did mention
one of those. That's why I got a third base coach. So I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know what wrong on that one, but that cost him a run, and I don't know.
There's one thing that I liked, and I'll close on this, that I liked hearing the announcer say, is that in baseball, they rewarded Indiana State for playing a tough out-of-conference schedule. That's the only reason they were nationally seeded. Like, they went out and challenged themselves in the non-conference schedule. Now, maybe that's something we could see with Iowa next year. And
well, Iowa did play LSU and beat them.
They did, yeah.
Indiana State and beat them.
Yeah.
They did schedule a series against Texas Tech. Didn't fare well in that series, I don't think. Didn't they? I think they lost that series, right? 2-1. But I mean, they didn't schedule. I don't think Iowa scheduled poorly. Again,
no. But I think that's something that got us in the tournament as opposed to years past, where we didn't get in as a.
That's fair.
Yeah. So, well, let's get to anyone else, and thanks for your time. And probably I'll see you sometime over the summer. I'm sure you're gonna have something, right?
We're doing a couple live shows this month.
Okay.
Thanks, John.
Sounds good.
All right, folks. Drill MVP's on the line. Drill MVP, welcome to the show.
Hey, how you doing, Corey, this evening?
I'm up and down, just like the Iowa bullpen. Mostly down, just like the Iowa bullpen.
Well, a lot of things I'm hearing in your game happened in the Kentucky-Indiana game. A lot of hit-by pitches.
Not 10.
Yeah, Indiana probably had more. I couldn't watch the game, but Indiana had a lot of hit-by pitches.
You think they had 10?
Yeah, it was a lot. It was a lot.
Okay.
Like, I'm almost positive it was at least half a dozen. I think last they checked, it was 8. I saw on Twitter. So it seems like a Big Ten theme today. But Corey, I mean, Iowa was the 2 seed entering this region. So, I mean, they did basically what they were expected to do.
Sure. But the way they lost yesterday, this one's going to sting for a while because they had an opportunity to. I have no doubt if they won yesterday, if they close that thing out. You remember they were up for 4-2 in the 8th. They closed that game out last night. They probably win this regional. They probably do.
Yeah, you're probably right. But I was talking about this in the morning game. You got to pay off your debt eventually in baseball, and you just can't keep playing with your food because things like this will happen and you run out of arm. If Iowa would have beat Indiana State the first time, if they didn't go 13 innings against North Carolina, hey, you won 4 or 5 extra innings. How about instead of giving up a home run to North Carolina in the final inning, that's 4 innings right there.
Yeah.
So you got to get a closer. Iowa needs a closer this offseason.
That would be nice, wouldn't it?
Yeah, that would be nice. Some guy just to throw 20, 30 pitches. I mean, the bullpen production was pretty bad. The ERAs, the lowest ERA for Iowa pitching was 2.78 for this game. So not exactly good. Indiana State, by the way, went 4 of 17 in running and players in scoring position. So,
as I say, they actually escaped with minimal damage. 11 is nothing compared to what they could have done. They continued to put guys on base, not only by guys that were getting hit by the pitch, but also walks. How many times I don't know how many walks Iowa had in this game, but they had plenty.
Too many is the answer, Corey. Too many.
Yep.
Too many. I mean, these types of things. This is why baseball isn't just about one game. It's about the whole series of games beforehand.
Yeah.
And I mean, this game was just a symptom of what they didn't do yesterday and the day before, but you've got that postseason experience. Oh, I'm not sure what the eligibility status of your players are, but hopefully next year they come back, they schedule a difficult out-of-conference opponent or two, and they win those series. They get into the tournament. I know they probably won't host, but at least they're familiar with the postseason play with the Big Ten tournament and now the postseason of baseball.
Hard to make the tournament in this conference. You've already got Maryland and Iowa eliminated at Indiana. You mentioned them.
Yeah, but Corey, I understand that, but let's be honest. Indiana's overachieved. They were a 3 seed, so no matter what happens, they've overachieved. They've beaten the 2 seed West Virginia. They're going Game 7 against the 1 seed. Iowa did what they were supposed to. Maryland was probably the only defect team, but they had to play at 11 p.m. last night.
But in order to overcome some of the stereotypes surrounding this conference and this sport, somebody needed to advance to a super regional.
That still can happen.
Could. But
yeah.
I'm saying that you could argue the 2 best teams are now gone.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it was – I think Maryland, you put 95, 99% of the country against Wake Forest in a regional, they're done.
Yeah, bad draw.
I mean, especially they got to play at 11 p.m. Then the next morning, what was it, 12 they started? I mean, they were just set up for failure.
Yeah.
So I don't know how much. I understand George Mason's not exactly a powerhouse team or anything like that, but still, I think there's a lot of reasons why you can explain the Maryland loss away. But Corey, after watching baseball for a week or two, what do you think about? What do you think about the game in general? Do you like
it's not
the
the only
game?
baseball I watch all year, but it takes up the majority of my baseball watching for the season. I'm not a guy who sits there and watches every game. I think I've been pretty honest about that. I enjoy the game. I've always enjoyed Iowa baseball, and I've never been able to get into Major League ball, but I think Rick Keller's done a terrific job. I think the conference. I've been on my soapbox. I'm off my soapbox now about the conference and its state with the sport. And I'm just disappointed that it's June 4th and we're done. But I'm also thankful that this team equaled the record number of wins, I believe, for in program history, whatever it was, 44 or something like that. And so lots to be thankful for. But this team is going to be hungry for more next year, and they've got Brody Breck for probably one more year, and hopefully he can lead the charge.
Yeah, I mean, this was probably. I think we'll look back on this season. I mean, Iowa, I haven't seen them as a perennial making the tournament, so I think this is a pretty good season for Iowa overall. I mean, there's a lot of teams that didn't even win a game in a tournament, much less two.
Yep.
So you got to take that into account. You guys probably, if you take all were to seed it out by the teams that won 1, 2, 3 games, Iowa probably finished in the top 45, top 30. So it's not a bad season, Corey. I know it stings now, but it'll be okay.
It'll be okay. The sun will come up tomorrow, Drill MVP, as it always does.
Now, I guess I can say this since I've still got a baseball to look forward to tomorrow. So
yeah, well, enjoy that, and I'll be rooting for Kentucky.
I appreciate it. I hit the like button for you, Corey, and I think everybody should. Thank you for the baseball content.
Thank you, Drill. We'll talk to you soon. All right, we're going to have to go quick hitter because I'm running out of time here. Let's go quick hitter on our last two callers. We've got 2 on hold here. Thank you for calling from the Hawkeye of the Storm. Who's on the line? Can you hear me?
Hey, Corey.
Hey,
Alan.
How are you? Sir? I think this is Alan, right?
Yes. How are you doing, sir?
Doing good, man. How are you?
Comments. It is. How are you doing, sir? Couple of questions. A couple of comments. While I praised Heller for his managing in the earlier game, I have absolutely no idea what he did tonight. Again, first of all, Obermueller. Why he was given a second inning after that performance in the 5th, beyond me. Number 2, at 8-7 in the top of the 7th, when you have arms like Morgan, you can give Brecht an inning, you can go back to Llewellyn. Why they went with a 4th or 5th reliever, beyond me. I just don't understand the strategy.
So I guess again, not being a baseball guy, let me ask you this question, Alan. Are we certain that they could have went with Brecht or Morgan or well, they wouldn't have went with Langenberg? Can you just go with a starter as a bullpen guy? Is that a dumb question?
Absolutely.
Okay, then I have no explanation as to why you wouldn't at least throw a guy like that in there to get you out of a bind. I don't have the answer to that question. If that's a feasible thing to do.
And again, if Brecht is going 108 pitches yesterday, okay, and you're not going to bring him back today when it's a do or die, it makes no sense. Then the problem was they should have given him another inning yesterday. And this would not have, no one even talked about this because he would have gone to the 8th and maybe they would have gone to Llewellyn in the 9th yesterday. Again, not going to Brecht yesterday in the 8th cost them this regional. Absolutely. It makes no sense that they didn't go back to either Morgan or Brecht or even get Llewellyn in the 7th, then going with all these third-tier relievers. It made no sense. I don't understand the strategy tonight when you have 2 of your better arms sitting in the pen, can give them maybe an inning, and you go back to some of these guys who were awful. I mean, their pitching tonight was just absolutely horrible. And again, as I wrote down in the comments, Wake Forest won their region 48-7 in the 3 games. And I'll tell you one thing, and I will guarantee any of the teams in Fayetteville will beat this Indiana State team. Any of them. This is not a good team at all. Iowa just gave away the region, in my opinion.
I thought Llewellyn pitched okay when he got in there tonight.
He did, but he's the arm I would have got to in the 7th.
I agree. Oh, I agree with you. I don't know why he was so far down in the order, unless they, if it really was a thought process of, well, we're probably going to go with Luke for a few innings tomorrow, so let's save him. That doesn't even make any sense because you're not going to get to him if you can't
think about tomorrow.
I know you can't. But that was
again, Obermueller should have never got a second inning tonight. No way.
He
as bad as he pitched.
He probably shouldn't have. Listen, I know everybody wants to talk as it relates to innings, but I'm looking at pitches. How many pitches did Obermueller have? Like
I don't
60?
know, but he was so bad in the 5th. And they gave him so much of the 6th. I didn't understand it. And again, you have to ask if Morgan or Brecht were available because again, Morgan threw 95 pitches on Friday. He can give you 1 inning today. Brecht threw 108 pitches on yesterday. He can give you a couple of batters today. The idea that you left both those guys in the bullpen and you went with 4th and 5th relievers or 4th and 5th options rather than going to these guys when it's do or die, that's where Heller lost tonight's game, in my opinion.
By the way, Alan, Jags fan in the chat says Indiana State is really good. What are you talking about?
They are going to get killed by any of those teams in Fayetteville. I'm telling you. Do you think TCU or Arkansas can beat this team?
Well, I don't know much about either of those teams. I know that TCU scored 20 points, 20 runs. There I go with my non-baseball talk. 20 runs against Arkansas, a few hours ago. So obviously they've got – I was surprised that Indiana State and Iowa struggled so much to get runs on the board until today. And the bats kind of came alive for both those teams. But no, I agree with you. I don't think Indiana State's a favorite for whoever they play. If it's Arkansas or TCU.
They are not a good team. And again, someone has to ask Heller why those guys were not brought in, honestly. Why those guys were not brought in for an inning.
Question.
Morgan or Brecht. They had to have been brought in today.
Yeah. And
thank you very much. I appreciate it, Corey.
Yep. Thank you, Alan. Appreciate the call, sir. Yeah, and I see the people. Robert brings up, injury chance. Your arm would be rubber, right? Sing ding 41. Nobody's coming back a day, 2 days later after throwing 90-plus pitches. Well, Marcus hadn't played since Friday. I'm just saying, I'm not saying you're bringing him out there for 50 pitches or 50-plus pitches, but could you get a situation where you get 10 to 20 pitches and get yourself out of a bind? I love the fact that we have some Indiana State fans in the chat. I think that's great. Welcome here, folks. Welcome. All right. Congratulations to the Indiana State Sycamores. It pains me to say that, but, I know a lot of fans made it out to Terre Haute, and because the regional was in Indiana, it gave Iowa fans an opportunity to travel. By the way, great fan base and a great representation by Sycamore fans out there in Terre Haute. I know people have ripped Terre Haute. I don't know much about the town myself, but great representation, and Iowa will be back, folks. A lot of returning personnel next season. The bullpen needs to be figured out. Pitching rotations need to be figured out. And is it DeRiggi, the one guy, who was it that said that in the chat? Again, I'd have to go through the roster. But, they're not going to be – I know they're bringing a lot back, and expectation should be to get back to a regional in 2024. So it's been a fun season. And, of course, I will be back with you later this month. We're not going anywhere here from the Hawkeye of the Storm. So more coverage here, Iowa basketball, Iowa football coverage, recruiting, etc. We'll have live streams and podcasts, interviews, as always. Yes, Indiana State defeating Iowa 11-8 in the NCAA tournament, the Terre Haute Regional. The Sycamores advanced to the Super Regional, where they will play either, I think Arkansas or TCU, or the Fayetteville Regional winner. I should say it that way. The Fayetteville Regional winner in that regional has not yet been decided. A couple of quick notes before we go. Please hit that like button on the way out, folks. We don't get as many views on these baseball videos. I know that going in. I want to provide this for folks, especially during postseason play. So please just extend a thanks by hitting that thumbs up button. It does help the show. Please subscribe, turn that bell on for notifications. And of course, you can support the show by supporting all of our sponsors in the chat, or in the description. You can donate in the chat or in the description. Man, you can tell I've done 2 post-game shows today. Donate in the description as well. And you can also support by signing up for a free trial of Aura. Go to aura.com/Hawkeyes, aura.com/Hawkeyes. Check out our merchandise. Check out our Amazon link for your Amazon shopping. And we'll talk to you later this month, folks. Have a great day.